And it is. All right, welcome everyone here at 10:45 on Thursday morning for this week's edition of LEAD. And if we could go to the agenda or our slideshow, I would appreciate it. Number of topics to discuss today, especially around information and updates, specific information around the guidance that went out week. Return to participation started again last week, just updates from that. And then Jason will close us out with recruitment opportunity for officials. And that's something we need to continue to do. No COVID. So Laura, at this time, I'm going to turn it over to you around updates around our website and tasks involved, please.
Great. Thanks, Bob, and good morning, everyone. Earlier this week, sent out in an update a list of tasks for you and others in your office to take on as we're moving toward winter and spring sports and new things that have been updated and are now available on the website. Many of these are one-time pieces that this year, as we knew, building the website together would take some more of your time. So earlier this week, and again in today's updates, you got a link that takes you to these tasks and provides some directions around them. Supporting you in doing this, we've scheduled 3 question and answer sessions. They are not a training, but please bring your questions and things that you have, again, for you or anyone in your office. Those will be held the next 3 Fridays from 12:30 to 1:15 or whenever we're done. There's a Zoom link in the update, and it's the same link for each one of those. Please drop in if that meets your needs or the needs of those in your office to answer those questions. Additionally, that info@mshsl.org is the best place to send website questions. There are a number of us that work in that email box and providing support out to you on that. And just a thank you to everyone. This continues to be a big task on everyone's plate in a time when everyone's plate is more than full. So appreciate your work on it. And if you need help, those are 2 options. Otherwise, please reach out and I will do what I can do to assist you also. We're going to move into some information and updates. And I'm going to turn the floor to Jody Redmond to talk about the COVID graduated return to participation.
Thanks, Laura, and good morning, everyone. Just an update on the post-COVID-19 graduated return to sport protocol. So if an athlete has been diagnosed and or has tested positive for COVID-19, a medical evaluation by a qualified medical provider is highly recommended. It is not required, but again, highly recommended. We are currently working with the Sports Medicine Advisory Committee and specifically Dr. Bill Roberts on looking at the current form. That form is available right now under resources on your dashboard. And we're working with Bill on looking at how that form is currently working. We have had some information and feedback that's been provided by member schools and by the physicians community across the state of Minnesota. So he's working on a second iteration of that form so that we can, again, provide you and your student athletes with the best and safest return after COVID has been experienced. So just so you're aware that when a student does test positive, if they are asymptomatic, it is a minimum of 14 days that they are quarantined and cannot participate. With the return to participation or sports participation protocol, that's an additional 7 days. So it's 21 days if a student tests positive and is asymptomatic. If a student is experiencing symptoms, that 14-day quarantine period begins after the last symptom is present. And so that could extend out well beyond that 21 days that they are not eligible to be participating. So again, as a school community, as an athletic administrator, please make sure that you're aware of the form. Again, we're trying to provide a safe return. And the issue that is presenting are cardiac issues. And so again, so students are returning in the safest possible way. 1, make sure you're aware of the form. 2, if you have questions about it and we can provide you with some assistance in how to interpret that, we're happy to do so. And 3, look for an updated form that, again, as I said, Dr. Roberts is currently working on with the physicians community across the state. So any questions that you have, you can certainly put those in the chat, and I'm going to turn it back to Bob.
Great, Jody,
Thanks,
I'm going to
Jody.
jump in here just a second. People are adding quite a few questions into chat, and I think those will be helpful as you work with Dr. Roberts to clarify. So thanks to everyone who's put the questions in. That will help us make the next iteration of that.
Great, thanks, Laura and Jody. And Jody, I believe I heard you say that there will be a Q&A coming out that will better assist schools around the forum as well. Eric, I'm going to turn it over to you for an update again around the foundation and Form A for our members.
Thanks, Bob, and good morning, everyone. Thank you again to everybody for all your work at this time. The foundation board met a couple of weeks ago, and I reminded people last week, and I just want to get that back on your radar again. Foundation Form A is now taking applications, and so we will add a link to this PowerPoint. I'll be right in there for you to be able to get to the foundation website. The link will take you right there, and you can fill out the online application. Many of you did that last year. I think we had about 290 schools, which was the high watermark for quite a number of years regarding that. And again, for those that might be new, just a strong recommendation to reach out to a mentor in your area, perhaps a lead liaison, someone like that who could explain a little bit more. But again, the application identifies free and reduced lunch numbers within your school. And then depending on the amount that the foundation board assigns to Form A applications, that is a per rata basis in terms of what kind of amount you will get back to your school. And so completing that in a timely manner is important. That due date is here at the end of November. So now is the time to get that taken care of. And so want to make sure that you're well aware of that, put that at the top of the to-do list, and you'll get a chance to have access to a portion of those funds from the MSHSL Foundation. And again, a reminder that that is a different group than the State High School League and the State High School League Board. They're two separate organizations in regards to their operation. So I'll slide right into the fine arts information as well. As you know, fine arts groups are getting organized. In some cases are already participating in some ways. The State High School League does not have regular season for things like debate and speech, but those currently happen, obviously. But what happens is talking about postseason and how do we come together for that. Add into the mix that one act play really needs to know what the end game is for them to even be able to select the performance that they're going to choose to do. So there will be rather detailed information that's going to come out in regards to one act play so that your directors are able to best determine how they want to take this season on. In addition, music contests in some places in the state actually would be happening here very shortly. But the recommendation there from the music advisory is that no competitions take place until after February 1st. And again, work continues with the NFHS on getting more music providers to allow for virtual contests. We know that that is the safest and the best way to do that. And quite honestly, when it comes to postseason in almost all of these music and debate and speech, it is very likely that the virtual format is going to continue to be the way in which that's going to happen. And so you'll see additional information coming this afternoon regarding those fine arts programs. And then as we get closer to postseason timeframe, if there's more detail that needs to be provided, that will also be coming forward from our office. So thanks to our directors and to those who serve on those advisories for working together to get the best information out to schools. Laura, is there anything there that you would add in regards to the fine arts? I know you've been engaged in that as well.
Oh, just a clarification that you'll see more information around one act today than you will around the others. And our goal continues to be to get you the information you need at the time you need. And sometimes that's more information, sometimes that's a little less. Speech and visual arts are not on that list today. Those will be coming soon also.
All right, I think it's back to you, Bob.
Thanks, Eric and Laura. I'm assuming those will also be located on their specific pages too on the website.
Correct.
Good.
Correct. Our goal is to put those out in an update so you know they're there. They go on that long list that keeps getting longer of all of the COVID related pieces, but then also on specific activity pages and specific the blue accordion band. So people who only need one act information can find that under one act. Those of you who need a lot more information can find all of those documents in one place.
Great, thank you very much, Laura. And then some sport-specific clarifications, and these are questions that we get, also meeting with our liaisons as well. These are questions that are shared or maybe emails that we get or even phone calls as well. One of them being the definition around local. Again, local as defined by a member school. And remember the intent behind that, right? For the Moorheads or the Bemidji's, or the East with sizes of schools that they have in competition or what their sections or even their districts in football look like, they can define local as having to travel greater distances maybe than others. We also know that in non-metro schools, that the amount of travel that they have versus other parts of the state looks really different. It was intended to be an option for you to provide flexibility within your schedules and to make sure that you have contests that are able to play. Local looks like you're doing something every week that is outside of your conference, your section, or even the region of your state. That was not the intent around local. And we're getting into parts of the season now where it feels dire that we need to get contests, and maybe we're going to cross borders or having borders cross us. Remember, controlling that environment, controlling your bubble, so to speak, around COVID is going to allow you to play longer, going to allow us to play longer in controlling that environment. So as we bring other communities into our community, we need to make sure we know where we're at as a community. We had a great discussion last week with Heather Mueller, but also assessing what other communities are like and when they're coming to you. So as you're in that last minute and trying to make up a game, make sure that we're not drifting too far away from what the intent was and what we're trying to accomplish. So I know that's been a question that has been persistent, and any clarification we can continue to provide, we will do so. Jody, we're heading into next week, the last really 2 full weeks of the volleyball season. Give us an update on that, and also the potential for double headers in volleyball, if you would.
Yeah, sure, Bob. Thank you. And so as Bob mentioned, next week, you can begin playing 3 matches a week. We've had several requests that have come in asking about double headers in volleyball against the same team on a given day, and if that's allowable. As you know, bylaw 502 does allow 2 matches per day to be played by a given school. And those matches would count as 2 towards your maximum number of contests allowed, which is 14. So as far as a double header goes, you could play a double header per bylaw 502 on the same day. It would count as 2 contests, and it would only though count as 1 of your 3 match dates per week. So if you were to allow or if you were to arrange a double header playing against the same school twice on a given day, you could do that 3 times per week for the next 2 weeks if you have match makeups that you need to make up during or due to COVID or weather-related postponements.
Good, thank you very much, Jody. And Laura, this on this slide here, we have our COVID interrupted competition guidance. That's located on the webpage for you as well. And Laura cut and pasted that and located it here on the slide as well. Just be very aware of the term or the statement around if a team is unable to compete for any reason once postseason begins. So when your section or your region determine those dates, if a team is unable to play on that scheduled date due to COVID, you know, that is where a forfeiture comes in. And especially around football, I want to be very careful that we're not packing games into too tight a space in terms of time and creating greater risks around injuries. So be aware of that form again as we head into postseason and the language that exists there. If we could go on to the next slide as well here at this time, Laura.
Can I pull 2 questions out of chat? One is around the continued guidance around the volleyball double headers. Those would be typical 5-set matches, correct? Not 3-set matches?
Correct. So bylaw 502 does allow for 2 full volleyball matches, best 3 out of 5 to be played on a single day. And
Okay.
again, you may play a doubleheader if it is against the same team because there is no additional risk of exposure. I think some schools are doing this in a way that the varsity would play at 4 or 4:30. You would have your JV and sophomore teams play in between, and then the second varsity match could take place at 7:30 that evening. Or some are doing it where the JV and varsity are playing away. I'm sorry, the JV and sophomores are playing away and the varsity is playing at the opposite location to get those matches in. But yes, it can be 2 full best 3 out of 5 matches.
And then Bob, a couple of questions about return to play after being out on distance learning and virtual learning. What guidance and information do we have for schools as they transition?
I think the question there is, Laura, if we're quarantined and we're coming back, how long do we need to take to get ready for
Thank
a
you.
contest?
Thank you. Exactly.
And that could be in any sport, right? For some, it feels like football, you need a longer period of time, and quite often with being a collision sport, that would be accurate. The term physical readiness is to be determined by the school, and every individual might be a little bit different. So we aren't starting over with climatization period, but determining where individuals are at and being physically ready to be able to play in a contest, especially like football, is necessary. And that is for the coach and the administration to determine how long that's going to take. And it might take longer for some individuals than other. If you're coming back one day after a 2-week layoff doing nothing physically, that is not going to be supported in terms of going on and playing that contest on the following day. So I think we're getting into postseason. Those questions come up around that competition, but making sure our student athletes are physically ready to compete and not maximizing risk in terms of their health is going to be imperative. Great question.
And finally, all of a sudden, people are looking for football games. If people want to send me those, I will put out one message at the end to try to coordinate who's all looking for football games. Getting 250 plus people together seems to be a way that people might try to fill some schedule pieces. So send those my way if you're looking.
Perfect. Thanks, Lauren. I appreciate everyone's effort. Again, trying to schedule those contests, and we know that it now is a difficult time to do so. And if you notice here, it's the first bullet here underneath updates and clarifications. So as we met with our liaisons, and we continue to appreciate their work. Just to let you know, we did add lost a couple liaisons since its inception due to workload by those ADs and their member schools. So we added Shelley Hassler out of Jackson County Central and Nick Cornier out of Frazee. And if there are others that would like to serve or find out more about the liaison, shoot me an email too, and I'm happy to discuss that with you. Again, trying to get the most accurate information from your part of the state with schools like yours and information back out to them through us was really the idea around liaisons during these times, right? This is something that we didn't create until April following really where we were at around COVID-19. So our winter sports guidance and information needs some clarification. That went out to you. We're going to update that again a week from Friday. Those updates are going to include some of these topics. We know scheduling has been very difficult. I think about that larger school again in a non-metro setting like dance. I know has been really difficult to find competitions for you. Wrestling for all schools can be really difficult, especially around the management of tries, right? So we're going to try and provide a little more guidance. And then again, how do you use locker room, right? What's appropriate use for that? How do you do so in a try setting? Maybe again in wrestling, where you're also handling weigh-ins. And then we're starting to get more and more questions around those interstate games. And I touched on that earlier, right? And what does that look like? The distance that you're able to travel. Again, providing flexibility, but let's not maximize risk, especially around COVID, when we're looking to get those games and maybe having to cross borders or having them coming to you. And then what does capacity look like in your facilities and what can you handle especially around spectators. And then one of the questions that's come up around gymnastics and that 25% of occupancy. And again, the clarification really is the gymnastics facilities look really different statewide. And there hasn't been a lot of guidance from MDE or MDH around gymnastics specifically and their pod sizes. So that's where that language came from. And I know those questions have come up, and Amy D has done a nice job having to answer those as well. And it did come up in liaisons. So again, a week from tomorrow, check those guidance, sport-specific guidance information again. You will notice some updates that may assist. Again, we're willing to help with questions as they come to us. If you can't wait till a week from Friday as well. If we can, let's head to the next slide. Is there anything I missed here for our staff? All right. So return participation met yesterday for in 1 hour. They will meet up again every weekly. Starting, we have 2 hours scheduled for next Thursday as we prepare for our December 3rd board meeting. We're looking at that projected calendar, or that graph or grid as you call it, as we call it, and as you've seen, really projecting out the rest of the year. We define that 2 weeks of postseason on the calendar, but it's the 3 weeks and what the 2 weeks are designated for versus that third week. So we spent some time really brainstorming what that 3 week period of time could look like around postseason. And I think it also designates a space for a section period of time, and what else might that following week look like as we continue to try and provide opportunities to conclude that season in the best possible way. Again, that postseason we looked at, and really where are we at? We know that there's concerns around our numbers and participation as it continues. And we have to brainstorm and plan. It's not a light switch that we can just turn on and off. We have to be planful and very strategic in terms of how we move forward. And then other options that might exist for not only the winter, but also the spring. And remember, our winter season looks different than fall, and our spring season right now looks different than winter. I think one of the things that came up yesterday too in return participation very early on was around things that people are hearing around the potential for a statewide shutdown. And I'm not sure what a statewide shutdown looks like. It looks like it did, last spring versus like it did prior to, June when things opened up a little bit more. Just know this, we have no information from any state agencies on any shutdown of sorts. So we know that there is rumors, so to speak, out there around something that potentially could happen. We have to continue to just plan and hope that we can continue to compete and continue to be flexible around what options are given for us. Anything that we hear from a state agency, as you heard last week as well, we're going to get that information out to you as quickly as we possibly can after it becomes available. We hope that we're able to find out before just the general public is able to do so we can system planning and help you plan in doing so, knowing we don't always have control around that. I'm going to invite Eric back into the conversation here. Eric, anything around postseason or those 3 weeks of postseason that you would like to provide further information or clarification on, or anything else that you would like to add around this slide?
Yeah, thanks, Bob, and appreciate just the conversation. Maybe you may have seen the article that was in Star Tribune this week related back to conversations that took place with our board at the board workshop last Wednesday. And really, I think one thing we want to assure you is that we are working just like you in the here and now on a regular basis. And that's, what are we doing for today and for tomorrow and next week and all of those kinds of things. At the same time, we need to be recognizing the fact that we are in a position where that it is likely that we're going to be operating things differently going forward. We've focused on a progression of increased opportunity for students and working to balance both the safety aspect and the activity opportunity aspect, both really valuable, both really important pieces to how we do this. And we've also said that when and if we can get to tournaments, they are likely to look very different. And so that, as Bob said, that doesn't happen immediately. We have sections and regions right now that are already planning their postseason regional type tournaments for the winter season at this time. And we need to put together things for our board to consider. We need to look at ways in which this can work, not just for one activity, but for many activities. Many providers in other areas really just do youth sports in one particular sport or activity. And for us, it's putting together plans and models that are going to meet the Department of Health requirements for safety for participants, for those spectators, for officials, et cetera, that are going to be financially responsible to the Minnesota State High School League and provide an experience and have that tradition and experience that we've had within our activities, knowing that it's likely that things like venues might be different. And we may be doing more with streaming or broadcast, things like that. And so just continuing to think about those things is what we need to do now as we look forward. But that does not mean in any way, shape, or form that we are not focused on what we're doing right now with our activities in football and volleyball and planning for the beginning of winter. And I think that that's just really critical and important. So thanks, Bob. Appreciate that. And I'll turn it back to you.
Great. Laura, if we could go to that slide, before we get away from return participation, then I'm going to have to go back to winter sports guidance, as I forgot one of the announcements as well. Around winter sports guidance as well, and clarification, that remember that cheer does have its own set of guidance. They do have their own page, and that information is located there as well. So questions around cheer as we get into the winter sports, know that it does have its own guidance. It exists on its own page. You can find helpful information there as well. Laura, if we could go down to, I believe we have a slide showing again. Here's our task force. Remember, our task force was made up of our board members who serve on the eligibility committee. We also have liaisons that participate in return participation as well as two region secretaries, and then Brent Shimmick out of Deer River as our MNI AAA acting president as well. So just a reminder on that. And then let's move on here if we can, Laura. And just again, the role of the return participation task force and what they're looking at, and really their decision-making process, right? They're a part of it. They're in an advisory role to develop options for our board. Those options should be vetted by the groups below or listed. And then they provide that feedback back to us. And we make recommendations, or the task force makes the recommendations, so the board can then hopefully make the best possible decisions with the information and input that they've received. So again, you have an idea of what we're looking at next for the return participation task force here prior to December 3rd. And really this is something that will stay in existence, I believe, for the foreseeable future as things continue to morph and change. That being said, I'm going to turn it over here to Jason Nickleby from our office and his work around officials and an upcoming opportunity around recruiting. Jason?
Thanks, Bob. Good morning to all of you. Recruitment and retention of officials is a consistent program objective that we have, and we strive to meet and exceed those expectations every year. Retention is the lifeblood of our officials program, and keeping quality officials is something that we all need to work together on. Recruitment is also important, and in that vein, we will be holding an online recruitment forum on November 10th at 6 p.m. You see the graphic there on the screen that Laura has shared, and the microsite that's at the bottom that will be shared with all of you. And we encourage you to share that information with coaches, athletes, community members. As activities administrators, you and your coaches have great relationships with the folks in your school communities, and they're more likely to give officiating a try if they hear about that opportunity from someone like you. So this is a low-risk way for prospective officials to learn more about the avocation and the steps to becoming an official for league events. So we look forward to seeing many new recruits at the online forum, and they can always shoot us a message, give us a call if they have any questions about that event. Thank you.
Jason, great work for you and those that offer these opportunities, and we appreciate that. Again, we thank your efforts. We will see you again here next week I know that things are not ideal with how you're rescheduling and scheduling right now, just around two sports. So thanks for your continued efforts, the great work that you do. If there's anything we can do to further assist you, please let us know. And thanks for everything you put into chat. We'll get that back out. And I think we're going to finish at 11:15 today. So that's a good thing. Have a great remainder of the week, and we will talk to you next week. Thank you.